My dad banned me from attending my daughter's birthday because my wife was introducing her successful boyfriend. They looked down on me, until he saw me on a video call and said, "Hello, boss?" That's when they started apologizing and begging, but it was already too late. Chapter 1. Uninvited. Barrett Thorne stared at his phone, the text message from his ex-wife Natalie burning into his retinas. "Barrett, this isn't personal, but Max doesn't feel comfortable with you attending Zoe's birthday. It would be better if you skip this one. I'll send pictures." Barrett's jaw clenched as he read it again. His own daughter's 16th birthday party, and he was being told not to come because Natalie's new boyfriend didn't feel comfortable. He had never even met this Max person. He typed back, "She's my daughter. I'm coming." The reply was immediate. "Max is paying for everything at the Four Seasons. He says it's his event, his guest list. Please, don't make this difficult." Barrett's spacious home office suddenly felt claustrophobic. The sleek, minimalist furniture that usually brought him peace now seemed to mock his powerlessness. Outside his floor-to-ceiling windows, Seattle's skyline glittered in the morning light, oblivious to his fury. His phone rang. Zoe's name flashed on the screen. "Dad." Her voice was small, uncertain. "Hey, sweetheart. I was just talking to your mom about your party." A pause. "She told you already that I'm not invited?" "Yeah." Barrett kept his voice level, not wanting to put his daughter in the middle. "It's not me, Dad. Max says you'd make everyone uncomfortable. He says you'll embarrass me because she trailed off." "Because what, Zoe?" "Because you're not successful like him. He says it would be awkward having someone like you at the Four Seasons." The words tumbled out in a rush, as if she was repeating something she'd heard many times. The pain lanced through Barrett's chest. For 3 years since the divorce, he'd maintained the appearance of a struggling small business owner. It had been a deliberate choice, one that had apparently cost him his daughter's respect. "I see," he said quietly. "And what do you think?" Another pause. "Mom says you never amounted to anything, that you wasted your potential." Barrett closed his eyes. Natalie knew nothing of his actual life. No one did except his inner circle. "I'm sorry, Dad," Zoe continued. "Max bought me a car for my birthday. He says I shouldn't waste time with losers." "And you believe that?" "I don't know what to believe anymore." Her voice cracked. "I gotta go. Mom's calling me." The call ended. Barrett set down his phone and gazed at his reflection in the dark computer screen. At 42, he still cut an imposing figure. 6'2" with broad shoulders and the physique of someone who never missed his morning workouts. His dark hair was just beginning to gray at the temples, giving him what his business associates called a distinguished look. 3 years ago, when Natalie left him taking 13-year-old Zoe with her, she thought she was leaving a failing businessman. She had no idea that Barrett's apparent struggles were a calculated move as he secretly built Thorne Innovations into a tech empire valued at over $2 billion. Only a select few knew that the modest Barrett Thorne Consulting was merely a front for his vast holdings. His real wealth and power remained hidden behind shell companies and discreet investments, a protective measure that had begun during their marriage when Barrett recognized Natalie's growing materialism. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Thorne, your 10-0 is here," announced his assistant. Barrett straightened his tie and pushed the hurt down deep where he kept all his old wounds. "Sent him in Ava." A tall man with weather-beaten features entered. Lyle Garrison, Barrett's head of security and former Army Ranger, had been with him since the beginning. "You look like hell," Lyle observed. "Natalie's banned me from Zoe's birthday party. Her new boyfriend doesn't want failures like me embarrassing them at the Four Seasons." Lyle's expression darkened. "That's cold. What are you going to do about it?" Barrett stood and walked to the window. The Seattle skyline, where he owned 3 of the buildings visible from his office, sprawled before him. Nothing. Yet, he turned back to Lyle with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "But I think it's time I met this Max person." Chapter 2. Paper Masks. Barrett met Natalie Kingston during their junior year at Washington State University. He was studying business with big dreams. She was in communications with bigger ones. Their connection was instant. The ambitious business major, and the vivacious future PR executive. "You're different," she told him on her 3rd date, as they shared cheap wine in his cramped apartment. "Most guys talk about what they'll do someday. You talk like you're already doing it." That confidence had attracted her. So had his intensity, his work ethic, and the spark in his eyes when he discussed his ideas. What Barrett didn't know then was that Natalie was primarily attracted to potential, specifically, the potential for wealth. They married 2 years after graduation. Barrett launched his first tech startup with his roommate, Flynn Rivera, while Natalie landed a job at a prestigious PR firm. The early years were happy. Two young professionals climbing their respective ladders, making a modest home in a Seattle suburb. Then came the dot-com crash. Barrett's first company folded, taking their savings with it. Natalie stood by him, but something shifted in her eyes. The admiration dimmed, replaced by a constant evaluation. Zoe's birth temporarily unified them. Barrett took odd consulting jobs while rebuilding in secret, creating the foundation of what would become Thorn Innovations. He worked brutal hours, often sleeping at a small office downtown rather than making the commute home. "You're never here," Natalie would say. "What kind of father are you becoming?" "I'm building something for us," he'd reply, "for Zoe's future." What he didn't tell her was that his new business model was working incredibly well. By the time Zoe was 5, Barrett had silent ownership in 3 successful tech companies. By the time she was 10, that number had grown to 12 with a net worth approaching 9 figures. But he kept it hidden, disturbed by the changes he observed in Natalie. Her fascination with luxury brands, her new friends. All wealthy wives with wealthy husbands. Her increasing dissatisfaction with their modest lifestyle. "The Mendozas just bought a summer home in the Hamptons," she'd say over dinner, or Carol's husband took her to Paris for their anniversary. Barrett created a paper mask. The struggling consultant still trying to find his footing. He drove a 3-year-old Audi instead of the Bentley he could afford. Their house was comfortable but not extravagant. He claimed business failures when he was actually orchestrating massive deals through proxies and shell companies. Then came the final straw. When Zoe was 13, Natalie came home from a charity gala she'd attended alone. "I met someone tonight," she announced, standing in their bedroom doorway, while Barrett reviewed contracts. "His name is Maxwell Holloway. He owns Holloway Development Group." Barrett looked up, recognizing the name of a mid-size property development company that specialized in high-end commercial real estate. "That's nice," he said, returning to his paperwork. "He asked me to dinner." I said yes. Barrett set down his pen. "You're married." "Am I?" Natalie laughed bitterly. "To what? A man who's never here? Who can't give his family the life they deserve? Who's going nowhere while all our friends succeed?" "I provide for us," Barrett said quietly. "You provide mediocrity," she snapped. "I'm tired of making excuses for you at parties. Tired of watching other women get the life I deserved." A month later, she moved out taking Zoe. The divorce was brutal, but quick. Barrett let her believe what she wanted about his finances, paying a reasonable but not extravagant settlement. Natalie walked away thinking she'd escaped a failed husband, never realizing the fortune she'd left behind. Within 6 months, she was publicly dating Max Holloway. And within a year, Barrett had quietly acquired controlling interest in 3 companies that did essential business with Holloway Development Group. He never used this leverage. He simply held it, waiting, patient, calculating until now. Chapter 3: The Phantom Empire. "She actually called you a loser to your face?" Flynn Rivera's normally cheerful expression darkened as he paced Barrett's private office at Thorn Tower, the secret headquarters Barrett had built in downtown Seattle, concealed behind a modest facade of a shared workspace company he owned. "Not directly," Barrett replied, swirling the scotch in his glass. "But she's been filling Zoe's head with it for years." Flynn stopped pacing. At 41, he looked younger than Barrett with his energetic movements and casual attire, a testament to his role as the public face of their technology ventures while Barrett operated from the shadows. "It's been 3 years, man. Maybe it's time to drop the disguise, at least with Zoe." Barrett stared out at the view from the 47th floor, his tower, his city. "I wanted to see who would stand by me when they thought I had nothing." "And now you know," Flynn said softly. Barrett nodded, pain flashing across his features before the mask of control returned. "Now I know." His phone buzzed with a text from Ava. "Research on Maxwell Holloway complete. Files uploaded to your secure server. Let's see what we're dealing with," Barrett murmured, opening his laptop. The file was comprehensive. Maxwell Holloway, 45, CEO of Holloway Development Group, divorced twice before meeting Natalie. No children. Company valued at approximately $75 million, substantial, but a fraction of Thorn Innovations' worth. Known for flashy developments, celebrity connections, and aggressive business tactics. Most importantly, Holloway Development Group was currently seeking financing for a major Seattle waterfront project, their biggest ever and unknown to Holloway. The lending consortium they were negotiating with was controlled by one of Barrett's shell companies. "He's leveraged to his eyeballs," Flynn observed, reading over Barrett's shoulder. One failed project away from trouble. Barrett stared at a photo of Max, tall, tanned, with two perfect veneered teeth, and the smug expression of a man who'd never faced real consequences. And there's more, Flynn continued. Holloway Development just put in a bid to acquire the Westlake Center property. Guess who owns the holding company that controls it? Barrett smiled thinly. That would be me. This guy has no idea he's been swimming in your pond. No, Barrett said quietly. He doesn't. His phone rang. Zoe again. Barrett put on speaker. Dad. Her voice was hushed as if she was hiding somewhere. I'm sorry about earlier. Max and Mom were right there. It's okay, sweetheart, Barrett said, softening his tone. What's going on? Mom said I can at least video call you during the party on Saturday. She paused. I want you there, Dad. I don't care what Max is. Barrett exchanged a glance with Flynn. I want to be there too, Zoe. We'll figure something out. After they hung up, Flynn raised an eyebrow. Video call. That could be interesting. Very interesting, Barrett agreed. His mind already racing, especially if Max happens to be in frame when I answer. Later that evening, Barrett sat in his home study reviewing the latest acquisition proposals when his secure line rang. It was Lyle. Got something you should know? The security chief said without preamble. Holloway's been asking questions about you around town. Barrett set down his pen. What kind of questions? Basic background checks. Seems like he's trying to verify your loser status before the big party, making sure you're as insignificant as Natalie claims. Interesting timing, Barrett mused. He's been dating my ex-wife for years, but only now decides to check me out. There's more, Lyle continued. The reason is the Westlake deal. Your name came up peripherally in some paperwork, and he's suddenly paranoid about connections he can't explain. A slow smile spread across Barrett's face. So Max doesn't want me at the party because he thinks I'm a nobody, but he's also worried I might be somebody. Pretty much. What's your play here, boss? Barrett leaned back in his chair, the plans crystallizing in his mind. For 3 years, I've been invisible, Lyle. I think it's time to step into the light. Selectively. The video call, the perfect opportunity, Barrett agreed. Give me everything on Holloway's current projects. Especially the waterfront development. I want to know every investor, every contractor, every permit application. After hanging up, Barrett opened his safe and removed a file labeled contingency. Inside was a detailed strategy he'd created years ago but never implemented. A systematic approach to revealing his true identity and status in ways that would maximize impact on specific targets. He developed it initially as a business tactic. Now it would serve a more personal purpose. Barrett updated the file with notes about the upcoming birthday party and video call. Then he opened his laptop and typed an email to his attorneys, instructing them to prepare for significant business moves in the coming weeks. As Barrett worked late into the night, a text from Natalie arrived. Please don't make a scene about the party. Max is very particular about his social circle. It would be embarrassing for everyone if you try to come. Barrett didn't reply. Instead, he pulled up the real estate record for Natalie and Max's current residence, a $3,200,000 waterfront home on Mercer Island. Property taxes were coming due next month, he noted. And the mortgage holder was a bank that Barrett's investment group had recently acquired. Small details, useful details. The pieces were falling into place. Chapter 4. Hello, boss. Saturday arrived with Seattle's typical autumn drizzle. Barrett spent the morning in his home gym, working off the tension that had built over the past week. By noon he was showered and dressed in a custom charcoal suit, a stark contrast to the casual attire he typically wore when meeting with Natalie or Zoe. His phone chimed with a text from Zoe. Party starting. We'll call it 3. Miss you, Dad. Barrett smiled at the small victory. Despite everything, his bond with Zoe remained, albeit strained by Natalie's influence and Barrett's necessary deceptions. At 2:45, Barrett settled into his home office. He had arranged the background carefully. Subtle but unmistakable signs of wealth and power. A rare painting partially visible, built-in bookshelves with leather-bound first editions. A window view of Elliott Bay and the Olympic Mountains beyond. His laptop chimed at precisely 3. Barrett took a deep breath and accepted the video call. Zoe's face filled the screen. She was in the venue's restroom, her carefully styled hair and makeup indicating Natalie's influence. Dad, happy not being at my birthday, she attempted to joke. Happy birthday, sweetheart, Barrett replied warmly. You look beautiful. Thanks, she said, her smile faltering. I wish you were here. Me too. How's the party? Boring. Mom invited all these people I barely know. Max's business associates and their kids. They're all out there networking while pretending to celebrate me turning 16. Barrett nodded sympathetically. I'm sorry, Zoe. That's not right. She shrugged. Whatever. Look. I got you on my new phone, Max's gift. It's the latest model. She flipped the camera to show the sleek device. Very nice, Barrett said, noting the $1,200 phone was exactly the kind of flashy gift Max would choose, expensive enough to impress, but requiring no actual thought. Zoe, there you are. Natalie's voice came from off-screen. Everyone's waiting for the cake. She stopped abruptly as she entered the frame and saw Barrett. Oh, you're on with your father. 3 years had changed Natalie little, still beautiful 40 with her highlighted blonde hair and careful makeup. She wore a designer dress that Barrett recognized from a recent fashion magazine. Likely $5,000 minimum. Hello, Natalie, he said calmly. Her eyes narrowed at his appearance. You dressed up to take a call from your daughter's bathroom? I had business today, Barrett replied simply. Natalie's mouth tightened. Well, we need to get back to the party. Max has arranged a special presentation. Mom, I just started talking to Dad, Zoe protested. 5 minutes, Natalie said firmly, then cake. She disappeared from view. Zoe rolled her eyes. See what I mean? It's her party, not mine. It'll be over soon. Barrett consoled her. Maybe next weekend we can. The bathroom door opened again. Zoe, seriously. What's taking so? A man's voice cut off as he entered the frame. Tall, fake tanned, with that too wide smile Barrett had seen in photos. Maxwell Holloway. Max stared at the screen. Recognition slowly dawning on his face as he took in Barrett's appearance and surroundings. Who's this? Max asked, his tone condescending. My dad. Zoe said tersely. Dad, this is Max. Max's smile was patronizing. The ex-Natalie's told me all about you. Still doing that little consulting thing? Barrett's smile was shark-like. Among other things, well, sorry you couldn't make it today. Very exclusive venue, you understand. Need to maintain certain standards. Max placed a proprietary hand on Zoe's shoulder. Barrett leaned forward slightly. Understand completely, Maxwell. Standards are important in all aspects of life, business included. Something in Barrett's tone made Max pause. He studied Barrett more carefully, taking in the expensive suit, the office background, the confident demeanor that didn't match Natalie's descriptions. Have we met before? Max asked, his smugness faltering slightly. Not formally, Barrett replied. Though you've been in several meetings with my representatives. Max frowned. What company did you say you were with? I didn't. But you've been negotiating with my lending consortium for the Waterfront Place project, and my real estate division is reviewing your bid for the Westlake Center acquisition. The color drained from Max's face. His eyes widened as realization hit him. You can't be. Barrett Thorne. Barrett confirmed, his voice like ice, CEO of Thorne Innovations Group, owner of Cascade Investment Partners, a majority stakeholder in Pacific Northwest Holdings. Max's mouth opened and closed several times before he managed to speak, but that's impossible. Thorne Innovations is worth billions. He turned to Zoe. Your mother said he was a failed businessman. Zoe looked between Max and the screen, confusion evident. Dad, what's going on? Before Bear could respond, Max blurted out. Hello, boss. I had no idea. There must be some misunderstanding. Natalie appeared behind them, irritation on her face. What's taking so long? The guests are. She stopped when she saw Max's expression. What's wrong? Max grabbed the phone, angling it so Natalie could see Barrett clearly. Did you know who your ex-husband actually is? He hissed. Natalie stared at the screen. What are you talking about? That's just Barrett. Just Barrett. Max laughed, the high nervous sound. Natalie, your ex-husband is Barrett Thorne, the Barrett Thorne. My company has been courting his investment group for months. He controls half the commercial real estate in Seattle. Natalie's face went blank with shock. That's not possible. Barrett was struggling when we divorced. His business was barely staying afloat. That's what you wanted to believe? Barrett said quietly. I never corrected you. The silence that followed was deafening. Zoe looked shell-shocked. Max appeared terrified. And Natalie's expression shifted rapidly from disbelief to calculation. Barrett, she finally said, her PR training kicking in as she attempted a warm smile. There've been a terrible misunderstanding. Of course, you're welcome at Zoe's party. In fact, why don't you come right now? We'd all love to see you. Barrett checked his watch. I'm afraid I have a board meeting in 30 minutes. Perhaps another time. But surely you could, Max began. Goodbye, Zoe. Happy birthday. Barrett interrupted. We'll talk soon. He ended the call before they could respond. Barrett leaned back in his chair, heart pounding despite his outward calm. The moment of revelation had arrived sooner than he'd planned, but the shocked expressions on their faces had been worth the wait. His phone immediately lit up with texts from Natalie. We need to talk. Call me a sap. From Max, Mr. Thorne, sincere apologies for the misunderstanding. Would very much like to discuss privately. Can meet at your convenience. And finally from Zoe. Dad, what just happened? Why didn't you ever tell me? Barrett ignored them all and called Flynn instead. How did it go? His friend asked. Better than expected, Barrett replied. The grenade has been thrown. Now we watch the explosion. Chapter 5, Damage Control. The Four Seasons ballroom descended into chaos after the video call ended. 16-year-old Zoe sat stunned on a bathroom couch, while Natalie paced frantically before her. This is insane, Natalie muttered. It can't be true. He was struggling when we split. The settlement was modest. He drove a sensible car. We lived in a normal house. Well, he's not struggling now, Max snapped, his normally perfect hair disheveled from running his hands through it repeatedly. Do you have any idea what this means? My entire waterfront development hinges on financing from his company. Natalie rounded on him. This is your fault. You're the one who insisted he couldn't come because you told me he was a nobody, Max shouted. A small-time consultant who couldn't hack it in the real business world. Those were your exact words. Zoe looked between them. Her birthday. Celebration forgotten. Stop it. Both of you. She stood, her designer dress swishing angrily. All this time you've been telling me Dad was a failure, making me feel sorry for him. And now I find out he's some billionaire. We don't know that he's a billionaire, Natalie said weakly. Thorne Innovations is valued at over $2 billion, Max countered, checking his phone frantically. I just looked it up. How did I not connect the names before? Barrett Thorne Consulting, Thorne Innovations. God, I'm an idiot. Outside the bathroom, the party guests murmured in confusion. The birthday girl had disappeared, the cake sat uncut, and the hosts were nowhere to be seen. We need to fix this, Natalie decided, switching to crisis management mode. Max, go out there and tell everyone we're having a small family moment. Zoe will be out soon for cake. I need to call Barrett. Good luck with that, Max muttered, straightening his tie before heading out. Natalie pulled out her phone and dialed Barrett. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again with the same result, then sent another text. Barrett, please call me. We need to talk about Zoe. Zoe watched her mother with new eyes. You left him because you thought he wasn't successful enough. It wasn't a question. Natalie's perfectly manicured hand trembled slightly. It was more complicated than that, honey. Was it? Zoe's voice was hollow. Because I remember when you started seeing Max. You kept talking about his house, his cars, his connections. You never talked like that about Dad. Your father and I had issues long before. Save it, Zoe interrupted, standing up. I'm going home. Home? Zoe, this is your birthday party. There are 50 people out there. Your friends. Max's business contacts, not mine. Zoe grabbed her purse. I'm calling an Uber. Don't be ridiculous. We'll talk about this later. Natalie grabbed her daughter's arm. Zoe pulled away, like we talked about banning Dad from my party. Or how about all those times you told me not to expect much from him for birthdays and Christmas because he simply can't afford it? Natalie flinched. I was trying to manage your expectations. Well, consider my expectations completely unmanaged. Zoe stalked out of the bathroom, leaving her mother staring after her. Meanwhile, across town, Barrett sat in his office with Flynn and Lyle, watching the fallout on multiple screens. One showed his phone with incoming messages. Another displayed the security fee from the Four Seasons lobby, courtesy of the hotel's head of security, a former client who owed Barrett a favor. Look at this, Flynn said, pointing to a financial alert. Holloway Development Group stock just dropped 3% in the last hour. Word must be getting out about the connection. Barrett nodded. Investors are nervous. They're wondering what it means that Holloway has been courting me for financing, while simultaneously banning me from a family event. Not a good look, Lyle agreed. Corporate world runs on relationships. Holloway just publicly insulted one of the most powerful men in Seattle. Barrett's private line rang. A number few people possessed. He checked the ID, Olivia West, his former sister-in-law and Natalie's younger sister. Olivia, he answered. This is unexpected. Barrett. Her voice was guarded, but not hostile. I just left Zoe's party. It's a mess over there. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? She asked skeptically. Because from where I'm standing, you just dropped a nuclear bomb on my sister's life. Barrett leaned back in his chair. I simply answered video call from my daughter on her birthday, a birthday party I was expressly forbidden from attending. Olivia was silent for a moment. Then, why didn't you ever tell me? We've had coffee every month since the divorce. You let me believe you were struggling. I'll let everyone believe what they wanted to believe, Barrett replied. You were one of the few who treated me the same regardless. Another pause. Zoe left the party in tears. She's pretty upset about being lied to by both her parents. Barrett closed his eyes briefly, the first crack in his composure. Where is she now? Heading to my place. She doesn't want to see Natalie or Max. Thank you for telling me, Barrett said quietly. Don't thank me yet, Olivia replied. I'm still processing the fact that my brother-in-law is apparently a secret billionaire. Also, Natalie is on the warpath. She's convinced you hid assets during the divorce. Everything was disclosed according to legal requirements, Barrett said calmly. The value of my holdings at that time was accurately reported. What happened after we separated is another matter. God, you always were 10 steps ahead, Olivia said, a reluctant admiration in her voice. I have to go. Zoe's arriving. Just be careful, Barrett. This isn't just about Natalie and that jackass she's dating. Zoe's caught in the middle. After hanging up, Barrett turned to Flynn and Lyle. Zoe's staying with Olivia tonight. Flynn nodded. Good. Gives everyone time to cool off. He hesitated. What exactly is your end game here, Barrett? Humiliating Max and Natalie or something more? Barrett's expression hardened. They need to understand the consequences of their actions. All of them, even Zoe, I'll ask quietly. Zoe will learn a valuable lesson about judgment and loyalty, Barrett replied. Sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. His phone buzzed with another text from Max. Mr. Thorne, I've been trying to reach you. The Waterfront Place presentation is Monday. Please don't let personal matters affect our professional relationship. I had no idea of your connection to Natalie when we began discussions. Barrett showed the message to Flynn, who laughed. That's a lie. He's been with Natalie for years. Of course it's a lie, Barrett agreed. And Monday's presentation is about to become very interesting. He picked up his phone and called his executive assistant. Ava, contact the board. I'll be personally attending the Holloway development presentation on Monday. An hour later, Barrett's security team reported that Natalie had arrived at his building demanding to see him. He instructed the lobby security to send her up. No point delaying the inevitable confrontation. When Natalie stormed into his office, she stopped short at the sight of the expansive space with its panoramic views and expensive furnishings. How long? She demanded without preamble. How long have you been living like this while I thought you were barely getting by? Barrett dismissed Flynn and Lyle with a nod before turning to his ex-wife. Would you like a drink? You seem upset. Upset? You've been lying to me, to our daughter for years. I never lied, Barrett corrected. I simply allowed you to believe what you wanted to believe. You decided I was a failure, and left. I didn't correct your assumption. Natalie paced the office, taking in the evidence of Baird's success. This is crazy. You were struggling when we were together. Your business was barely breaking even. The business you saw was barely breaking even, Baird agreed. The others were quite profitable. Others? Natalie stopped pacing. What others? Barrett gestured to a wall displaying framed corporate logos, dozens of them, all subsidiaries of Thorne Innovations. I kept my real work compartmentalized. Only a few trusted people knew the full extent of my operations. Why? Natalie's voice cracked. Why would you hide this from me? I was your wife. You were, Barrett acknowledged, his tone cooling. A wife who measured her husband's worth by his bank account rather than his character. A wife who left when she thought she'd found someone more successful. Natalie flinched. That's not fair. Our marriage had problems. Yes, it did, Barrett interrupted. And instead of working through them, you jumped ship to the first flashy alternative that came along. How's that working out for you now, Natalie? Now that you know Max isn't the biggest fish in the pond after all. Natalie's expression shifted, anger giving way to calculation. She moved closer, her voice softening. Barrett, we should talk about this rationally. For Zoe's sake, she's confused and hurt as she should be. She's been taught to disrespect her father based on lies. Not lies, Natalie protested. Misunderstandings. We can fix this. Maybe we all need a fresh start. Barrett laughed, the sound devoid of humor. A fresh start? Is that what this is about? Now that you know what I'm really worth, you're reconsidering your options? Natalie's face flushed. That's cruel. I'm thinking about our daughter. No. You're thinking about yourself. You always have. Barrett stood, signaling the end of the conversation. Go back to Max, Natalie. Explain to him how you've sabotaged his business by turning his potential biggest investor against him. I'm sure he'll be very understanding. Barrett, please. We're done here, he said, pressing the intercom. Eva. Please show Miss Kingston out. As Natalie left, fury and fear warring in her expression, Barrett returned to the window, gazing out at his city. Phase 1 was complete. The revelation had landed with maximum impact. Now it's time for Phase 2. Chapter 6. The Iron Fist. Monday morning arrived with dark clouds and a sense of impending doom at Holloway Development Group headquarters. Max Holloway had barely slept all weekend, alternating between desperate attempts to reach Barrett Thorne in frantic meetings with his executive team. The Waterfront Place project was Holloway's most ambitious development to date. A $120 million mixed-use complex that would either cement his legacy or destroy his company. And the primary financing, a $75 million package he'd spent months negotiating, came through Cascade Investment Partners, Barrett Thorne's company. He's going to pull the funding, Max muttered, pacing his office while his CFO, Dennis Palmer, watched with increasing concern. We don't know that, Dennis countered. Though his tone lacked conviction, the deal makes financial sense regardless of personal issues. Max rounded on him. I banned a man from his daughter's birthday party, called him a loser to his face. Technically you didn't know it was him, Dennis offered weakly. That makes it worse. Max collapsed into his chair. The presentation is in 2 hours. Thorne confirmed he's attending personally. He never attends these meetings. So make it the best damn presentation of your life, Dennis advised. Apologize briefly at the start, then wow him with the numbers. Max nodded jerkily, then froze as his assistant buzzed through. Mr. Holloway, Natalie Kingston is here to see you. Not now, Max hissed. She's already coming in, sir. The door opened, and Natalie strode in, immaculately dressed, but with tension evident in every line of her body. We need to talk. I'm preparing for the most important meeting of my career, Max snapped. The meeting that your ex-husband might torpedo because of you. Because of me? Natalie's voice rose. You're the one who insisted he couldn't come to the party because you described him as a pathetic small-timer, Max shouted back. Dennis cleared his throat. I'll give you to a moment. He slipped out, closing the door behind him. Natalie collapsed into a chair. This is a nightmare. Zoe won't return my calls. She's staying with my sister. And Barrett looked at me like I was nothing. Join the club, Max muttered. 3 years we've been together. And you never thought to mention that your ex-husband might be the Barrett Thorne? I didn't know, Natalie protested. He was struggling when we divorced. The settlement was minimal. Minimal by what standard? What exactly did you get? Natalie hesitated. The house, worth about $600,000 then. Child support for Zoe. A one-time payment of $250,000. Max stared at her. That's it from a billionaire. He wasn't a billionaire then, Natalie insisted. At least I didn't think he was. Or maybe, Max said slowly, he was already successful and hid it from you. And you were too self-absorbed to notice. Natalie's face hardened. That's unfair, is it? Max stood straightening his tie. I have a meeting to prepare for. One that might save my company from the mess your lies have created. My lies. Natalie stood as well. I'm not the one who paraded around Seattle pretending to be less successful than I was. No. You're the one who left your husband when you thought he couldn't provide the lifestyle you wanted. Max's voice was cold. What does that make you, Natalie? She slapped him, the crack echoing in the office. Don't you dare judge me. You love that I left bare for you. It fed your ego. Max touched his cheek, his expression shifting to something calculating. We'll discuss this later. Right now, I need to salvage my business. After Natalie stormed out, Max called Dennis back in. Any word from Thorne's team about the meeting? Dennis checked his tablet. Just that Mr. Thorne will be attending personally with his chief counsel and CFO. The lending consortium representatives will also be present. Max nodded, his mind racing. Let's go over the presentation one more time. And Dennis, if things go south, activate Plan B. The Chinese investors? Dennis looked concerned. They're offering worse terms and they'll want controlling interest. Better than bankruptcy, Max replied grimly. Across town, Barrett sat in his private conference room with Flynn and Lyle, reviewing their strategy. Holloway will be desperate, Flynn predicted. He'll grovel, then try to separate the business from the personal, Barrett nodded. And when that fails, he'll mention his backup financing option, the Chinese consortium. Lau raised an eyebrow, which he already bought out last week. Precisely. Barrett smiled thinly. Every escape route blocked. Every alternative compromised. It's not enough to defeat an opponent, Joe man. True victory means they never had a chance to begin with. What about Zoe? Flynn asked cautiously. Olivia says she's still pretty shaken up. Barrett's expression softened slightly. I've arranged to meet her tomorrow. She deserves the full truth directly from me. And Natalie? The softness vanished. Natalie made her choices. Now she'll live with the consequences. 2 hours later, Barrett sat at the head of the conference table in Cascade Investment Partners' main boardroom. Around him sat his executive team, the representatives from the lending consortium, and directly across from him, Maxwell Holloway and his team. Max looked terrible. Expensive suit and careful grooming unable to hide the stress of the past 48 hours. He attempted a confident smile as he began his presentation, only faltering slightly when he addressed Barrett directly. Mr. Thorne, before we begin, I want to apologize for the unfortunate misunderstanding at your daughter's birthday celebration. Had you known I was wealthy, you would have treated me differently. Barrett finished for him. That says everything I need to know about your character, Mr. Holloway. But please continue with your presentation. I'm curious to see if your business acumen exceeds your personal judgment. A flush crept up Max's neck, but he pressed on, detailing the waterfront place development with forced enthusiasm. The presentation was solid. The numbers made sense. The design was innovative. The market analysis thorough. When he finished, Barrett simply nodded and turned to his CFO. Your assessment? The fundamentals are sound, the CFO acknowledged. Expected return on investment is 12 to 15% over 5 years. Risk factors are within acceptable parameters. Barrett turned back to Max. On paper, Mr. Holloway, your proposal merits consideration. Unfortunately, I find myself questioning the reliability of the management team. Max's face paled. Mr. Thorne, I assure you, my company has an excellent track record. A company is only as good as the judgment of its leadership. Barrett interrupted. In your judgment, Mr. Holloway, has proved wanting. This is business, Max protested. Personal matters shouldn't influence. Everything is personal, Mr. Holloway. Every business deal is built on relationships, on trust. You've demonstrated that you judge people based on their perceived financial status rather than their character. That's not someone I choose to do business with. The room fell silent. Max looked stricken. Sir, this project represents years of work. We've already invested millions in preliminary development. Then I suggest you find alternative financing, Barrett replied coldly. Perhaps your Chinese contacts? Max's eyes widened slightly. How could Thor know about that? They've been exploring other options. Eastern Star Investment Group, I believe. Barrett smiled thinly. I should mention that Thorne Innovations acquired a controlling interest in Eastern Star last week. They'll be declining your proposal as well. The blood drained from Max's face. That's impossible, is it? Barrett stood, buttoning his suit jacket. This meeting is concluded. Cascade Investment Partners will not be providing financing for Waterfront Place, or any other Holloway development projects. Good day, gentlemen. As Barrett and his team prepared to leave, Max surged to his feet. You can't do this. This is personal vengeance, not business. Barrett paused at the door. You're right, Mr. Holloway. It is personal. Consider it a lesson in treating all people with respect, regardless of their perceived worth. He turned to go, then added, Oh, and do give my regards to Natalie. I'm sure she'll be very understanding about your professional setbacks. Outside in the hallway, Flynn matched stride with Barrett as they headed toward the elevator. That was brutal. That was necessary, Barrett corrected. Phase 2 complete. What's Phase 3? Flynn asked. Barrett's expression was cold and determined. Total capitulation. Chapter 7. The Truth Revealed. The following morning, Barrett waited in a private room at Cascadia Cafe, a quiet establishment overlooking Puget Sound. He'd chosen a location carefully, neutral ground for his conversation with Zoe, away from both his world and Natalie's. When Zoe entered, Barrett was struck by how adult she looked. At 16, she carried herself with a composure that belied the emotional turmoil of recent days. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, deliberately casual, he noted, a contrast to the designer outfit from her party. "Hi, Dad," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Thank you for coming," Barrett replied. "I know this has been confusing." Zoe stared at him, eyes searching his face. "Why didn't you tell me? All these years I thought," she trailed off. "You thought I was struggling?" Barrett finished. "I know. And I'm sorry for the deception. But why?" The hurt in her voice was palpable. "Did you not trust me?" Barrett reached across the table, offering his hand. After a moment's hesitation, Zoe took it. "It wasn't about trust," he explained. "When your mother left, she made it clear that financial success was her primary measure of worth. I wanted to know who would stand by me when they thought I had nothing. So it was a test. For 3 years." Zoe pulled her hand back. "That's messed up, Dad." "Perhaps," Barrett acknowledged. "But it revealed important truths about your mother, about Max, about many so-called friends and business associates, and about me?" Zoe challenged. "Was I being tested too?" Barrett's expression softened. "You were caught in the middle, Zoe. Your mother filled your head with a certain narrative about me. I don't blame you for believing it. Mom says you hid assets during the divorce, that you cheated her. I disclosed everything required by law," Barrett replied carefully. "The values at that time were accurate. The growth happened after he separated. Growth she would have shared, and had she not decided I wasn't worth staying with." Zoe studied him. "You've been planning this, haven't you? The reveal of my party. It wasn't an accident." Barrett smiled slightly. "You've always been perceptive." "No, it wasn't entirely accidental, though the timing was accelerated. Because Max banned you from my party. That was the catalyst." "Yes." Zoe was quiet for a moment, processing. "I heard Max's company is in trouble. That you pulled some big loan." "Financing," Barrett corrected. "And yes, Cascade Investment Partners has decided not to fund his waterfront place project because of me? Because of what happened at the party? Because Maxwell Holloway revealed himself to be someone who judges people based solely on their perceived financial status? That's not someone I choose to do business with." Zoe frowned. "So you're ruining his business because he was rude to you?" "I'm choosing not to enable someone who behaved dishonorably," Barrett countered. "There's a difference. Mom says you're being vindictive, that this is about punishing her for leaving you." Barrett's expression hardened slightly. "Your mother is entitled to her opinion. But consider this, for 3 years I've kept my distance. I've paid child support, promptly. I've never spoken ill of her to you. It was only when I was explicitly excluded from your birthday, when Max decided I wasn't worthy of attending my own daughter's celebration, that I revealed the truth." Zoe sighed heavily. "Everything's such a mess now. Mom and Max are fighting constantly. She's staying a hotel, and I'm still with Anna Olivia because I don't want to deal with any of it." "I'm sorry you're caught in the middle," Barrett said sincerely. "That was never my intention." "What was your intention, Dad?" Zoe asked directly. "What do you want out of all this?" Barrett considered his answer carefully. "Justice," he finally said. "Recognition of the truth and consequences for those who betrayed trust, including me." Zoe's voice was small. "You didn't betray me, Zoe," Barrett assured her. "You were a child influenced by the adults around you. But now you're old enough to see the truth for yourself." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the cafe entrance. Natalie's voice carried across the room. "I know they're here. I need to speak with them immediately." Zoe closed her eyes briefly. "Great." She tracked me down. Barrett's phone buzzed with a text from Lyle, positioned discreetly near the entrance. "Natalie causing a scene. Want me to intervene?" Barrett texted back. "Let her through." Moments later, Natalie stormed to their table, eyes wild with anger and fear. "How dare you meet with our daughter without telling me?" "I'm 16, Mom," Zoe pointed out. "I can have coffee with my father without permission." "Not when he's manipulating you against me." Natalie turned to Barrett. "First, you sabotage my relationship, then you destroy Max's business. Now you're turning my daughter against me?" "You've done that yourself," Barrett replied calmly. "Please sit down. You're making a scene. Natalie remained standing. Max's investors are pulling out. The bank is calling in loans. You did this, didn't you? I merely declined to finance his project, Barrett said. If others are following suit, perhaps they share my concerns about his business judgment. This isn't about business judgment, Natalie hissed. This is revenge. Mom, seriously, sit down or leave, Zoe said firmly. You're embarrassing yourself. Natalie stared at her daughter, then slowly sank into a chair. You don't understand what he's doing, Zoe. This is calculated destruction. I understand more than you think, Zoe replied. I understand that you left Dad because you thought he wasn't successful enough. I understand that you've been telling me he's a failure for years. And I understand that the moment you found out he's actually rich, you started having second thoughts about Max. Natalie flinched. That's not true, isn't it? Zoe challenged. And Olivia told me you've been talking about how you and Dad might reconnect for my sake. Barrett raised an eyebrow. Have you, Natalie? How pragmatic of you. Natalie flushed, then rallied. You've been lying to everyone for years, Barrett, living this double life. How is that any better than what you accuse me of? I never lied, Barrett corrected. I simply allowed people to see what they expected to see. Those who valued me regardless of my perceived financial status, they knew the truth. Olivia, Flynn, Lyle, people who saw my character, not my bank account. And now you're what? Taking revenge on everyone who didn't pass your sick little test, Natalie demanded. I'm allowing natural consequences to unfold, Barrett replied. Nothing more. Natalie laughed bitterly. Natural consequences? You're deliberately destroying Max's company. I decline to invest in it, Barrett corrected. If his company cannot survive without my investment, that speaks to fundamental weaknesses in his business model. Stop it, both of you, Zoe interrupted. This isn't accomplishing anything. She stood. I'm going back to Anne Olivius. I need space from both of you right now. As Zoe walked away, Natalie turned to Barrett, her voice low with fury. This isn't over. You think you've won, but you haven't. Barrett met her gaze steadily. It was never about winning, Natalie. It was about truth. And the truth is that you valued wealth over loyalty, appearance over substance. You taught our daughter to do the same. That ends now. Is that a threat? A promise, Barrett replied. Phase 3 begins tomorrow. I suggest you prepare yourself. Natalie's eyes widened slightly. What does that mean? But Barrett was already standing, dropping cash on the table for the untouched coffee. Goodbye, Natalie. Give my regards to Max. As Barrett walked away, his phone buzzed with a text from Flynn. Chinese investors pulled out officially. Holloway stock down 27% today. Board calling emergency meeting tonight. Barrett smiled thinly. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Chapter 8, The Fall. The emergency board meeting at Holloway Development Group lasted until 2 a.m. By morning, business news channels were reporting that Maxwell Holloway had been voted out as CEO by his own board of directors. The company's stock had plummeted 40% in 2 days, with major projects stalled and investors fleeing. Barrett watched the coverage from his office, expression impassive as financial analysts dissected Holloway's downfall. Sources close to the company suggest the collapse of financing for the Waterfront Place project triggered a cascade of failures, the CNBC reporter explained. Major investor, Barrett Thorne of Thorne Innovations Group, withdrew support unexpectedly, prompting other backers to reconsider their positions. Flynn entered with coffee, nodding toward the screen. They're calling it the Holloway implosion. Fastest corporate downfall in Seattle since the dot-com crash. Any word on Max himself? Barrett asked. Holed up at his lake house. Not taking calls. Flynn hesitated. Natalie's been trying to reach you. 11 messages since last night. Barrett nodded. And Zoe, still with Olivia. She's watching all this unfold from a distance. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Thorne. Ava announced the Holloway Development Group board is on line 1. They're requesting an urgent meeting. Barrett exchanged a glance with Flynn. Right on schedule. Put them through. The board chairman's voice was tense. Mr. Thorne, in light of recent changes in leadership, we were hoping to discuss the possibility of reviving discussions about the Waterfront Place financing. I see, Barrett replied coolly. And what assurances can you provide that the new management will demonstrate better judgment than Mr. Holloway? We've appointed Thomas Reed as interim CEO. He's eager to meet with you personally to discuss a path forward. Very well. 3-0 today in my office. After hanging up, Barrett turned to Flynn. Thomas Reed was Holloway's CFO, correct? Flynn nodded. Been with the company 15 years. Respected in the industry. No personal connection to your situation with Natalie or Max. Perfect, Barrett murmured. Phase 3 proceeds. Throughout the day, Barrett monitored the fallout. Max's ouster dominated local business news. Financial analysts dissected Holloway Development's precarious position. Social media buzzed with rumors about the connection between Barrett, Max, and Natalie. At 1:30, Natalie arrived unannounced at Thorn Tower demanding to see Barrett. Security called up for instructions. Send her to conference room B, Barrett directed. I'll meet her there. When Barrett entered the conference room, Natalie was pacing frantically. She looked disheveled, her usual perfect appearance fraying at the edges. You've destroyed him, she accused without preamble. The board fire maxed. The bank is foreclosing on our house. His assets are frozen. Barrett sat calmly. I've done nothing illegal or unethical. I declined to finance a project led by someone whose judgment I couldn't trust. Others made their own decisions. This is vindictive, Natalie cried. You're punishing him. Punishing us because I left you. No, Natalie, Barrett corrected. I'm allowing natural consequences to unfold. Max built his business on appearances and connections rather than solid fundamentals. One setback shouldn't cause a complete collapse unless the foundation was already weak. What do you want? Natalie demanded. Money? An apology? Tell me what will make this stop. Barrett studied her with clinical detachment. There is nothing you can offer that would interest me, Natalie. Not anymore. What about Zoe? Natalie tried a different angle. She's watching her mother's life implode. Is that what you want for your daughter? Zoe is watching the consequences of poor choices, Barrett replied. It's an important lesson. Natalie collapsed into a chair, the fight suddenly leaving her. I didn't know, Barrett. I truly didn't know you were successful when I left. Would it have made a difference? Barrett asked quietly. If you'd known I was wealthy, would you have stayed? Natalie opened her mouth, then closed it again, unable to answer. That's what I thought, Barrett said. You didn't leave because our marriage had problems, Natalie. You left because you thought you found a more profitable alternative. And now that alternative has proven disappointing. So this is my punishment. Natalie whispered. Financial ruin, public humiliation. This is reality, Barrett corrected. Reality without the cushion of my protection. You chose this path, Natalie. Now you get to walk it. I have nothing left, she said, voice breaking. Max is blaming me for everything. We're losing the house. My friends won't return my calls. You have exactly what you had when you left me, Barrett pointed out. The settlement was fair. The house I bought you is paid for. You have skills and education. What you don't have is the lifestyle that Max's money provided. Money he didn't actually have, as it turns out. Natalie stared at him, a dawning realization in her eyes. You're not going to help me, are you? No matter what I say or do. No, Barrett confirmed. I'm not. Not even for Zoe's sake. Zoe is nearly an adult. She'll always have my support. But you, Natalie, you made your choices. I respected those choices for 3 years. I kept my distance. I allowed you to build your new life with Max. It was only when you both actively disrespected me, banned me from my own daughter celebration, that I responded. Natalie was quiet for a long moment. Then what happens now? Now Barrett stood. Now I have a meeting with Holloway Development Group's board of directors. They're very eager to discuss financing options with me. Without Max, of course. You're going to save his company after destroying him? Natalie asked incredulously. I'm going to acquire his company, Barrett corrected, at a significant discount. It's a sound business decision. And us, me and Zoe. Zoe will always be my daughter. She'll want for nothing. Barrett moved toward the door. As for you, Natalie, you're free to rebuild your life however you see fit, just not with my assistance. Barrett? Natalie called as he reached the door. I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm truly sorry. Barrett paused, his back to her. Your apology is noted, Natalie. But as you once taught me, some things can't be forgiven. At 3 p.m. sharp, Barrett met with the Holloway Development Board. The directors were deferential, almost obsequious, as they presented their revised proposal for Waterfront Place. Thomas Reed, the interim CEO, outlined changes to the management structure and financing approach. We've removed all of Mr. Holloway's personal projects from the development pipeline, Reed explained, focusing only on ventures with proven market demand and realistic financial models. Barrett nodded, reviewing the revised projections. And Mr. Holloway's equity position? The board has agreed to a buyout of his shares, Reed replied. Given the current valuation, it's a modest package. I see, Barrett said. And what would the board's position be on an acquisition offer for the entire company? The directors exchanged glances. We would be open to discussing such an offer, the chairman said carefully. Barrett smiled thinly. Excellent. My team will provide terms this evening. I suggest you review them promptly. As the directors filed out, Flynn entered with a tablet. I assume we're moving forward with the acquisition. Barrett nodded. Prepare the offer. 50C. On the dollar of last week's valuation, non-negotiable. And Flynn, make sure the terms specify that all current executives must resign upon completion, except for Thomas Reed. Cleaning house completely? New ownership, new beginning, Barrett replied. No connections to the past. Later that evening, as Barrett worked in his home office, his secure line rang. It was Olivia. I thought you should know, she said without preamble. Zoe's decided to move in with me permanently. She doesn't want to live with Natalie anymore. Barrett set down his pen. Is she certain? That's a significant decision. She's been watching everything unfold, Olivia replied. The news about Max, Natalie's meltdown, your acquisition of Holloway Development. She's connecting the dots and she's impressed by your strategic thinking but disturbed by your ruthlessness, Olivia said bluntly. Her words, not mine. Barrett was silent for a moment. Is she afraid of me? Not afraid, Olivia clarified. But she's seeing a side of you she never knew existed. It's a lot to process. I never wanted to hurt her, Barrett said quietly. I know that, Olivia assured him. And deep down, so does she. But Barrett, this scorched earth approach, it's affecting more than just Natalie and Max. It was necessary, Barrett insisted. Was it? Olivia challenged. Or has this become about proving something to yourself? About making sure everyone knows Barrett Thorne is not a man to be crossed? Barrett had no immediate answer. Just think about that. Olivia continued more gently. Zoe wants to have dinner with you tomorrow. Just the two of you. She has questions. Of course, Barrett agreed. Tell her to name the time and place. After hanging up, Barrett stood at his window for a long time, staring out at the city lights. For the first time since this began, doubt crept into his mind. Had he gone too far? Had his pursuit of justice become simple vengeance? His phone chimed with a news alert. Breaking, Holloway Development Group Board accepts Thorne Innovations acquisition offer. Barrett closed his eyes briefly. Phase 3 complete. Total capitulation achieved. So why didn't it feel like victory? Chapter 9, No Forgiveness. Zoe chose a small Italian restaurant for their dinner. The same place Barrett used to take her for birthday celebrations when she was younger. It was a deliberate choice he recognized. A reminder of simpler times. She was already seated when he arrived, wearing a simple sweater and jeans rather than the designer clothes Natalie preferred. Her expression was guarded, but not hostile. Thanks for coming, Barrett said, taking the seat across from her. I want to understand, Zoe replied directly. All of it. No more secrets or half-truths. Barrett nodded. Ask me anything. When did you actually become successful? Before or after Mom left? Both, Barrett answered. I was already building something substantial while we were married, but I kept it compartmentalized. The real growth happened after the divorce. Why hide it from her? From everyone. Vera considered his answer carefully. I saw how wealth changed people around me. Friends became sycophants. Business associates became opportunists. Your mother became increasingly focused on appearances and status. So, you tested her? Zoe's tone was neutral. In a way, Barrett acknowledged. I wanted to know if she loved me or the lifestyle she thought I could provide, and she failed the test. She made her choice, Barrett said simply. Zoe was quiet for a moment, turning her water glass slowly. The company you just bought, Max's company. What happens to it now? It becomes a subsidiary of Thorne Innovations. We'll complete the viable projects, wind down the others. The good employees will keep their jobs. The name will change. And Max himself, he's out completely. The acquisition terms excluded him from any ongoing role or benefit. Zoe nodded, processing this. I'm on. That's between her and Max, Barrett replied. My understanding is that their relationship has deteriorated. That's one way to put it, Zoe said with a hint of bitterness. She called me crying every day. Their house is in foreclosure. Her friends have abandoned her. It's like watching someone's life implode in real time. Barrett studied his daughter carefully. Does that bother you? Of course, it bothers me. Zoe's composure cracked slightly. She's still my mother, Dad. No matter what she did to you, I haven't done anything to her directly, Bear pointed out. I simply stopped protecting her from the consequences of her choices. By systematically destroying her boyfriend's life and company, by declining to do business with someone who demonstrated poor character and judgment, Barrett corrected. Everything else followed naturally. Zoe looked at him intently. This wasn't just business, Dad. Be honest with me. This was personal. Barrett met her gaze. Yes, he admitted. It was personal. When Max banned me from your birthday, it crossed a line. Not because of my ego, but because he tried to sever my connection to you, my daughter, that I could not forgive. And Mom, can you forgive her? Barrett was silent for a long moment. No. He finally said, I can't. Even if she's truly sorry. Even if she's learned her lesson. Some betrayals run too deep, Barrett replied quietly. Some choices have permanent consequences. Zoe looked down at her untouched meal. She wants to meet with you to apologize properly. She thinks if you just talk it won't change anything. Barrett interrupted gently. I don't hate your mother, Zoe. I don't wish her ill, but I don't forgive her either, and I never will. That seems harsh. It's honest, Barrett countered. Would you prefer I pretend forgiveness I don't feel? Zoe sighed heavily. I don't know what I want. Everything's changed so fast. 2 weeks ago, I thought my dad was a struggling consultant, and my mom was happily dating a successful developer. Now you see the reality behind the facade, Barrett finished. It's not easy, I know. What about Max? Zoe asked. He came to Aunt Olivia's yesterday, looking for Mom. He was broken, Dad. Literally begging for help. And nothing. And Olivia sent him away. Zoe studied her father's face. He might lose everything. His reputation, his career, his home. Does that satisfy you? Barrett's expression remained calm. It's not about satisfaction, Zoe. It's about justice. Justice or revenge. Perhaps both, Barrett admitted. Max chose to judge me based solely on my perceived financial status. He treated me with contempt when he thought I was beneath him. Now he learns what true power actually looks like. Zoe was quiet for a long time. You know, Mom always said you were cold when it came to business. That underneath the charm was something unyielding. I never believed her until now. Barrett didn't flinch from her assessment. In business, as in life, clarity is essential. Max and your mother made their choices with clear eyes. Now they face the consequences with equal clarity. And, me? Zoe asked quietly. What are the consequences for me? For believing what Mom told me about you. Barrett reached across the table, taking her hand. You were a child caught between warring parents. There are no consequences for you, Zoe. Only a father who loves you unconditionally. Even though I didn't always treat you with respect. Tears shimmered her eyes. Even though I believed you were a failure? Even then, Barrett assured her, always. Zoe wiped her eyes. I want to understand you better, Dad. The real you, not the version Mom described or the version you pretended to be. Barrett smiled slightly. I'd like that, but I need you to understand something too, Zoe continued, her voice strengthening. I can't just abandon Mom no matter what she did to you. She's still my mother. I would never ask you to choose, Barrett said sincerely. Your relationship with your mother is yours to define, not mine. Zoe nodded, relief evident in her expression. There's something else. Max came to Mom's hotel this morning. She hesitated. What happened? Barrett's voice sharpened. Nothing violent, Zoe assured him. But he blamed her for everything. Said she ruined his life by lying about you. It was ugly, Dad. Really ugly. He called her terrible things. Barrett's expression hardened. Did he threaten her? Not physically, but he said he'd make sure she suffered like he was suffering. Zoe looked troubled. I've never seen someone so broken and angry at the same time. Barrett made a mental note to have while increased security around Natalie's hotel. Whatever his feelings about his ex-wife, he wouldn't allow her to be threatened. Max will leave Seattle soon, Barrett predicted. There's nothing left for him here. His reputation in the business community is finished. Because you made sure of it, Zoe observed. Because he made choices that led to this outcome, Barrett corrected. I simply revealed the truth. The rest happened naturally. Their dinner concluded with tentative plans for the future. Zoe would continue living with Olivia for now, but would spend weekends with Barrett. They would rebuild their relationship on honest ground, one step at a time. As Barrett walked her to Olivia's car, Zoe paused. "One last question, Dad. Was it worth it? All of this?" Barrett considered the question carefully. "Ask me again in a year," he finally said. "When the dust is settled, and we can see clearly what remains." Zoe nodded, then hugged him. The first genuine embrace they'd shared in years. "Good night, Dad." "Good night, sweetheart." As Barrett watched the car pull away, his phone rang. It was Flynn. "It's done," his friend reported. "Holloway Development Group is officially part of Thorn Innovations. The papers are signed, the money transferred, and Max left the building with a cardboard box and a security escort. Thomas Reed says he was not gracious in defeat." Barrett wasn't surprised. Havelisle arranged additional security for Natalie. Max may redirect his anger toward her. "Already done," Flynn assured him. "Also, the Seattle Business Journal wants an interview about the acquisition. Your call if you want to go public now or maintain the low profile." Barrett considered the question. "Schedule the interview. It's time to step out of the shadows. On my terms." 3 days later, Barrett sat in his office, reviewing the final acquisition documents when Ava buzzed through. "Mr. Thorne, Natalie Kingston is here. She doesn't have an appointment but she's quite insistent." Barrett sighed, sent her up. When Natalie entered, Barrett barely recognized her. Gone was the polished, confident woman who had dominated Seattle's social scene. In her place stood someone diminished. Designer clothes replaced by simple attire, perfect makeup absent, eyes shadowed by sleepless nights. "Thank you for seeing me," she said quietly, remaining standing even when Barrett gestured to a chair. "What can I do for you, Natalie?" "Nothing," she admitted. "That's not why I'm here. I came to apologize properly." Barrett waited, expression neutral. "I made terrible choices," Natalie continued. "I judge you based on wealth, rather than character. I taught our daughter to do the same. I left when I thought you couldn't give me the lifestyle I wanted." She paused, gathering herself. "I was wrong, Barrett. Deeply, unforgivably wrong." "Yes," Barrett agreed calmly. "You were." Natalie flinched slightly at his direct agreement but pressed on. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I understand now. What I threw away. Who you really are, and who am I, Natalie?" Barrett asked, curious despite himself. "Someone who never forgot, never forgave." She met his gaze directly. "Someone who waited patiently for years to deliver justice." Barrett didn't deny it. "Is that all you came to say?" Natalie hesitated. "Max is gone. He left Seattle yesterday. Before he left, he blamed me for everything. Said I destroyed his life by lying about you." "And did you lie about me, Natalie? Or did you simply not know the truth?" "Both," she admitted. "I didn't know how successful you really were, but I convinced myself you were a failure to justify leaving. I needed you to be less than you were, so I could feel better about my choice." Barrett nodded, appreciating her honesty if nothing else. "I've lost everything," Natalie continued. "My relationship, my social standing, most of my friends, my daughter's respect." She paused. "Was that your plan all along?" "Total destruction. My plan was to live my life authentically," Barrett replied. "To build something meaningful. To be there for my daughter. You and Max forced the confrontation. Not me." Natalie nodded slowly. "I understand. And I won't bother you again after today. She hesitated. "I just want to know if there's any part of you that remembers what we once had before it all went wrong." Barrett studied her for a long moment. "I remember," he finally said. "But memory isn't forgiveness, Natalie. It's just acknowledgement of what was, not absolution for what came after." "I see." Natalie straightened, dignity reasserting itself despite everything. "Thank you for your time, and Barrett, take care of Zoe. She deserves better than both of us." As she turned to leave, Barrett spoke again. "Natalie, the settlement house is still in your name. No one is taking that from you. And your PR skills are still valuable. You can rebuild." Natalie paused at the door. "Is that compassion?" "Clarity," Barrett corrected. "I don't wish you suffering, Natalie. I simply refuse to shield you from the natural consequences of your choices." After she left, Barrett returned to the window, gazing out at the city he'd quietly conquered while others underestimated him. The interview with the Business Journal would run tomorrow, officially unveiling Barrett Thorne as the power behind Thorne Innovations. His days of invisibility were ending. His phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. "Dinner this weekend?" "My treat this time." Barrett smiled. The first genuine smile in weeks. I'd like that, he replied. The empire he built would continue to grow. The lessons he taught would not be forgotten. And the line he'd drawn between those who stood by him and those who betrayed him would remain indelible. Some might call it ruthless. Barrett Thorne called it justice, and there you have it. Thanks for watching, take care, good luck.
After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. *.